because he's representing Donald Trump. So when he got to step forward this morning and say, we saw the highest wage increase in a generation, that was true. That was Donald Trump's administration. So he didn't have much to defend there, and it was a pretty clean cut. They'd secured the border. They'd kept wars under control. They'd had the lowest cost in energy and prices for gas, diesel, electricity, and deregulation was in process. That's a pretty good place to be if you're a vice president and you're having to defend your boss. We had the lowest grocery prices in accordance with the largest price increase over the last 8 months, up to 25%. In 18 months, you've gone from $1.50 to $2 for 4 cubes of butter to $5 for 4 cubes of butter. You think there might be something wrong? Trump's administration unleashed American oil drilling rights, coal and natural gas, petroleum research was at an all-time high. We were not dependent on foreign oil. We were producing oil in a capacity that allowed us to sell it to other nations. This gave us lower prices on everything from electricity to transportation across the United States. Housing was 40% cheaper than it is today, and groceries were 25% cheaper. Inflation seemed to be under control, and we seemed to be handling manufacturing. We saw the reverse in direction, that manufacturing and jobs were starting to come back to the United States. If Donald Trump is reelected again, I would bet that we're going to make and rebuild more manufacturing in the U.S. and be more self-sufficient as a priority. And I think that's what J.D. Vance was trying to put across today, was that we have seen what happens in supply chain interruptions, and we have seen what happens when we can't even make a washing machine or a refrigerator in the United States anymore, let alone our own military weapons systems. What happens when we come down to things like food, medicine, antibiotics, medical supplies, computer chips? Hell, how about washing machines and refrigerators? Is there a reason why we can't make those in the United States anymore? Or is it just because labor is being taken advantage of at such a low rate in foreign countries, not to mention slave labor out of China, that we couldn't compete if we wanted to? So therein lies the reason for tariffs. J.D. Vance said this morning, if you're going to use slave labor and wipe out our jobs by taking these factories over to your country in China, then there ought to be a way to level the playing field for the USA. And that is, we'll set a tariff on that part of machinery that you want to import into the United States so that it can be a fair and competitive job. And probably one of the most important things I heard J.D. Vance say this morning was that we need to do something about the illegal voting that is happening. When the United States government is suing states and trying to make it illegal to have voter ID so that people can cheat, what in the hell does the United States federal government have to do with suing states and telling them, no, you can't have voter ID. You're going to let anybody vote that wants to vote. You're not going to check their ID. You're not going to check their signature. They're going to vote, and we're going to count them. Well, I suppose that the Founding Fathers had electoral votes in the background when it came to that kind of thing, and that was one of the secondary defense or primary defense systems to the United States Congress when they went to use those electoral votes. So even then, they probably suspected or maybe conceived that there might be a problem in the future with the way people would cheat when they voted. So counting the electoral votes becomes even more important at that particular fulcrum point of and the axiom to bring about the President of the United States. But if you actually have illegal aliens automatically register to vote when they apply for a driver's license, and then you have the federal government suing the states saying you can't have voter ID, I wonder what the hell is going on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, right? But when you're Kamala Harris and you're going to have to defend your record on how you're going to change things on day one when you haven't done anything in the last 3.5 years. Oh, by the way, Kamala Harris and Biden, you reversed 94 executive orders, according to J.D. Vance this morning, on arrival to start to undermine everything that Trump had accomplished in securing the border. You ended the Remain in Mexico policy. You ended the deportation policy for illegal aliens. And you ended and all but stopped the wall construction completely and left piles of metal laying out in the desert that never got assembled. And now suddenly, Kamala Harris is a border advocate? Yeah, right. I don't think so. The proof is pretty much in the writing and the deeds that are done, to put it in J.D. Vance's words this morning. The jobs from the United States were shipped overseas during this administration, and they shut down the Keystone Pipeline. They censored U.S. citizens by intimidating Facebook, to which Mark Zuckerberg has now admitted and testified in writing that he was intimidated by FBI, CIA, and the executive branch of the White House to surveil U.S. citizens and restrict their postings, their communications, shut them down, tell them there was suspicious activity. We've seen it even now. It isn't over. They tell you it's over. Yes, we admit it. Yes, we've done it. We've made changes. It's not done. The people that are still buried deep inside of these companies are still in the act of this type of censorship. And you don't have any recourse. You're never going to get a single person to answer the telephone anywhere to lend you a hand. You get algorithms, you get emails, you get text. You don't even get text messages. So to say that there's anything taking corrective actions, it would have to be with the size and magnitude that Elon Musk took Twitter and turned it into X. And I'm sure that he is even still having problems ferreting out the algorithms that were involved in that deep censorship. You have criminal gangs moving into our communities, and there doesn't seem to be any way for us to stop that onslaught of these folks that are now making it unsafe and brought our communities to the point where in some places you don't want to go out after dark. The schools are being swamped. The hospitals and the emergency rooms are being swamped. And in some cases in the classrooms where the kids don't speak English, it now draws the teacher's attention away from providing the quality of education that the students in the class and that your kid needs at school. J.D. Vance covered all these things this morning, and I'm trying to do my best to convey exactly what he said so that you would understand that this border situation is now in every city. It is all of our problems. It's not just Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California being hit south of the border. They are busing and flying these people into your communities. They are dropping them off. They're giving them things that U.S. citizens couldn't get if they broke both legs. They wouldn't get the support that these people are getting. But moreover, Kamala Harris, according to J.D. Vance this morning, has every intention of making and bankrupting our Social Security and Medicare system when they allow all of these illegal aliens to have access to it. They haven't paid into it. They're not contributing to it. But suddenly we're going to find that we're standing in line. We don't have insurance. We can't get the kind of service that we need. And you're going to be lucky if you're not waiting in an ER room the average 6 hours that you do now. Can you imagine what it is when it turns into 10 hours? And all this time, and according to J.D. Vance's communication this morning at a rally, we, the people, the citizens of the United States, are being accused of being racist when we challenge, hey, you need to close this border to the invasion from South America and the rest of the world. Oh, well, you're a racist. I don't think so. I think we're stating the facts that we're being swamped and overrun. And of course, the nearest folks that are at the border are Mexico and then Central America and then South America. And they're coming up through the jungles of Panama to run over this border. And they're coming from every country in the world. India, China, the Soviet bloc countries. There isn't anybody that isn't coming across our border, and they're just being given a ticket to, and a free pass without any screening whatsoever. We have no idea whether or not they're sick or ailing when they come into this country, if they had tuberculosis, measles, mumps, rubella, smallpox, it doesn't matter. They're coming into the country and there isn't even a speed bump. They're imported so fast into Colorado, New York, and any place else in the United States. By the time you figured out that somebody had something infectious, you'd take down half a city's population. It's ridiculous. It's not just ridiculous, it's treason. So ladies and gentlemen, as they prepare to possibly try and cheat, even though we've tried to foresee every possible thing that could happen at the ballot box, at the drop boxes, everything that we've witnessed before that we're trying to keep eyes on, and asking all U.S. citizens, if you see guys with duffel bags dropping off ballots at a drop station, you need to say something, you need to take a picture, you need to grab a license plate number. Be careful. These people probably wouldn't care what happened to you, but I got to tell you, my boys, we'd be glad to take those guys to task. So if you're in my neighborhood and you're going to stuff ballot boxes or something like that, good luck to you. I hope my boys catch you in the act. SwampTheVoteUSA.com. If you go there, I am told this morning by Charlie Kirk in his broadcast that SwampTheVoteUSA.com is where you want to go if you want to find out where your voting station is, if you want to find out anything as to registering to vote, what district you might be in your city, in your county, in your state, that SwampTheVoteUSA.com is where you can go to get more information. So use that system if it's available to you, and see what you can do about getting everybody that you can to register to vote. Because if we don't get Trump elected, it isn't a joke. Can you imagine another 3.5 or 4 years of this kind of a government? There won't be a country left. You aren't going to be paying $4, $5 for 4 cubes of butter, and $3 or $4 for a gallon of milk. You'll be paying double. I mean, these people who have taken the White House don't have the first clue about the fundamental operation of government or your constitutional rights or your property rights, and they could care less. This is an overgrown mafia that has taken over this country, and if the citizens don't rise up, follow that obligation that they have in the Constitution to do something about redirecting tyranny back to freedom, then you're going to get the government you deserve. You don't want to vote? You don't want to register to vote? You don't want to get involved? Then you get the government you deserve. And at the end of the day, if it's a bad one, you're stuck with it and you don't even have a right to complain. Those of us who are registered, those are the good citizens who have taken a position, fought, they are standing up, they're wearing their MAGA hats, they're unafraid. They are working overtime, they're knocking on doors. Those are the people right now that deserve the credit for really doing what the Founding Fathers had intended. I'm running a current race for the City Council in Hesperia, California, where I live. And that means that we're knocking on doors, we're sending out mail, we're putting up signs, and guess what? We're letting people know that we back Donald Trump at the same time. So my crew, our folks that are working their tail feathers off, even when I'm standing here today, they're doing what was intended. We're going door to door. We're calling people on the telephone. We're registering people to vote if they haven't already. We're talking to people face to face. We're explaining the facts. We're using slates to try to identify to people, what are you voting on when you vote for all of these propositions that are coming across from a Democratic controlled Assembly and Senate? We're having to fight back with the vote from the ground up. And so is everybody else. Pennsylvania especially is on the forefront right now. And when we come back, we're going to cover some more global politics, but that is a report on J.D. Vance this morning. My name is Bill Jensen. You are watching The Strike Zone, and this is being presented to you by VBS News, a conservative channel that is representing those values that conservative Republicans and Democrats hold the most, which is your constitutional rights. I'm Bill Jensen.
Michel Steele vinh danh Tổng lãnh sự Cộng sản Hồ Xuân Sơn. Michel Steele im lặng để chống đưa gián điệp Trung Cộng vận động chính phủ Mỹ bỏ rơi Biển Đông. Im lặng là đồng lõa. Michel Steele phản bội ý chí chống Cộng sản của người Việt tị nạn. Cử tri gốc Việt không bỏ phiếu cho Michel.
không muốn thấy tiền Social Security của mình bị trừ hàng tháng vì lệ phí Medicare. Aviva có một chương trình để quý vị không cần phải trả 174 đồng 70 cent mỗi tháng cho Medicare phần B. Gọi 1866 610 0655 để tham khảo.
Được phục vụ trong quân đội là niềm tự hào lớn đối với luật sư Derek Trần, sinh ra và lớn lên tại đây, nhưng ông luôn hãnh diện về nguồn gốc thiện nhân tị nạn cộng sản của gia đình ông. Tại Quốc hội, ông sẽ tranh đấu để tăng ngân sách cho Đề hạt 45, bảo đảm an ninh công cộng, phát triển nền kinh tế, quyết tâm bảo vệ an sinh xã hội và Medicare, gác bỏ quan điểm chính trị riêng để phục vụ và phát triển đất nước. Xin quý đồng hương bầu cho luật sư Derek Trần vào chức vụ dân biểu liên bang Đề hạt 45. Xin cảm ơn quý đồng hương.
When I was District Attorney of San Francisco, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I spent many hours with her at the hospital. Fortunately, however, I could take the time I needed to be with my mother, but far too many others cannot.
Đó là lý do Kamala Harris đang chiến đấu đề nghị phép có lương để chăm sóc cho gia đình. Trẻ con được chăm sóc với chi phí hợp lý và được chăm sóc tại nhà.
Everyone should be able to care for the people they love.
May mắn đêm nay tâm hồn tỏa sáng vui tươi. Hãy chia sẻ niềm vui nào, ôi vận may ngập tràn lên. Lucky you, lucky me, lucky everybody. Lucky me, lucky you, lucky me. I think
Cuộc bầu cử.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back again here with VBS Broadcasting Network, and I'm Bill Jensen. You are in the strike zone. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk for a moment about the West Philippine Seas and the China Sea area, where we are involved with several different countries that are suffering from the Chinese intimidation that comes along with just sheer military strength and those forces that can make it miserable on the locals. China has been accused of circling Taiwan with a large-scale air and naval exercise that, according to Wen Tai-sung of the Atlantic Council, says that China's latest war games are a blatant provocation to undermine peace. Taiwan is warning that the increased military activity over the last 5 years is something that the world needs to wake up and pay attention to. In Sinshe, Taiwan, Wen Tai-sung stated that there is a limited response out of an abundance of caution. Ladies and gentlemen, what this means is that if someone's holding a massive war game next to you and they're playing with battleships, they're playing with missile launchers and aircraft, in the course of responding to the natural threat, you could accidentally shoot down an airplane. You could accidentally run into another ship. You could accidentally take out a civilian aircraft with a missile that suddenly locks onto target, and you've lost control of its tracking ability, which creates an international incident, which creates the potential for war or conflict or an additional response that only escalates the situation. And sometimes that may be the intent of the person holding the war game in the first place, to create a response that they could call war so that they could launch a full-out attack. If you don't think that these aren't the types of tricks that are played by dictators, go back to World War II and look around. Pre-war Germany. It isn't the first time that you would see something like this happen. The accidents that you've seen in the Arabian countries where missiles accidentally took out aircraft because things weren't happening the way they were supposed to, or somebody accidentally launched a missile and lost control of it. These are accidents. They're terrible accidents because you're talking about an aircraft could lose a couple of hundred people in a heartbeat. So when you have Chinese videos that are released showing maps of Taiwan and all of their military hardware consisting of missile launchers, Navy ships, Coast Guard ships, aircraft that are all in the process of conducting a very large-scale war game, while you've got civilian aircraft flying normal flights, you need to be really careful about what's going on around you. America has condemned China's joint sword exercise as an unwarranted and situation, and that it risks escalation if anything goes wrong. And they're not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. We have worked very large military operations out of Pacific Air Force headquarters, and in conjunction with Navy out of SINCPAC and PACRIM in my career in the military. And when you're moving that kind of hardware around and those kind of troops, there is the potential for a lot to go wrong very quickly. So I think that those risks of escalation should be paid attention to, lest somebody should say that the accident was a provocation of war. A Japanese aircraft carrier group spotted the Liangming, a Chinese aircraft carrier in the Taiwan Straits. I wonder what the Chinese would do if we sent one of our aircraft carriers through there. Air flights in Taipei were not affected by this war game over the last 3 days ago or so, at least to the best of all of our knowledge. In the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says that they will not surrender 1 inch of their territory to China, i.e. the West Philippines Sea, which is a particular area named the Scarborough Shoal, about 220 kilometers from the mainland, if I'm not mistaken, has had the Chinese Coast Guard running fishermen out of their area. And it should be noted that this same area where China is and has been in different areas of the West Philippines Sea, creating islands out of shoals, man-made islands. This area has natural gas and oil. To the Philippines, what this means is energy. Energy translates into food at the end of the day, end of the run. So when somebody comes in and says, oh, I own this land, you don't have any more oil rights, you don't have any more energy rights, you either fight at that particular moment in time, or you're slowly muscled out and there wasn't the opportunity to fight. China is trying to force a change in the geopolitical power by dominating the Philippine Sea and by creating and occupying man-made islands and shoals to the degree that the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., president of the Philippines, has said that the Philippines has been on the receiving end of illegal and aggressive and irresponsible actions in the West Philippine Sea. Again, he said not 1 inch of their land or territory would be surrendered to China. The Secretary of National Defense, Gilberto Teodoro, has said that China has been disingenuous in that because they seek dominion over the West Philippine Sea, they have encroached upon their territories with false claims of just being good neighbors, good trading partners. But at the same time, their Coast Guard ships are showing up so far and so close to the Philippines that some of the fishermen that testified in The Hague stated that they were deliberately run out. They're not being allowed to fish where they normally did, and that this area is in the process of being taken away. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the president of the Philippines, has the Washington, D.C. support in accordance with a NATO-type treaty that, with the USA, has allowed them to begin to militarily interact again. You may know that Subic Bay has been closed and that now there is an agreement and that we have some U.S. military forces with other countries, including Australia, starting to coordinate their activities in here to keep an eye on the West Philippine Sea and China. 17,600 soldiers participated in April of 2023 in a joint exercise, the largest to date. So I would say that in as measured responses go, if China is going to circle Taiwan, build islands out in the Pacific and in the primarily, I mean the West Philippine Sea, then somebody needs to have eyes on the situation. The USA now has access to 5 Philippine bases in an in an air defense pack. It's in a defense pack with them, sea and air. And China says that the Philippines cooperating with the USA will make the Philippine bases a target. Does that sound like intimidation or a direct threat? So you're not allowed to have somebody else's military in my country? If I'm the president of the Philippines and I want to invite the United States over for dinner, China's going to have a say-so and who's allowed to come to dinner? I don't think so. In the Philippines, both Democrats and Republicans are now united in accordance with the Western Philippine Sea and the issues that are created by China. So imagine that. The Democrats and the Republicans in the Philippines, which is a pretty distinctive line for folks that were invaded by Japan and remember it like it was yesterday, they've come together as citizens to stand up to China because the people who fish the waters and feed their country are being forced out of their traditional fishing locations. Given the rise to the unity between the Philippine citizens to defend their fishing communities, China's policies are meeting resistance that I don't think that they anticipated. Because not only did those fishermen testify at The Hague, they also managed to gain the support of the United States, Australia, and others. And I think that has China a little bit back on their heels that these folks are coming together. But at the same time, you will see the Chinese representatives, retired colonels and generals who are now speaking out on television somewhat, say that, well, if something really happened with Taiwan or something really happened in the West Philippine Sea, only a handful of people might come forward to help Taiwan or China. Thank you, Joe Biden, you derelict idiot, and Kamala Harris. Your weak-kneed response to the Crimean situation led to the Ukrainian situation, which could lead China to believe that, well, these guys aren't going to do a damn thing, so we can do whatever the hell we want. And I believe firmly, ladies and gentlemen, it is the threat of Donald Trump standing in the background and potentially being reelected that has put China in a position where, if this new guy gets elected, we may have a problem because he isn't just going to let it go. Joe Biden, we can walk all over him, and Kamala Harris, we don't need to worry about it. But that guy, Trump, yeah, it ain't looking good. And I'm pretty sure that if Donald Trump wasn't here today, China would do whatever they wanted, and you wouldn't expect 1 ounce of defense from the Biden administration. To the good men and women of the Pentagon, the armed forces, the U.S. military who are holding the fort out there, God bless you. Hang on. There's a commander-in-chief. He's coming. I know it will happen. I don't think that they can stop it. The world wants this. While the world and the allies unite, the Chinese still harass and run the Philippine people fishermen out of their historical fishing grounds in the West Philippine Sea. Some of the Philippine fishermen just see this as a paper victory. So I think it's important to let them know at some particular point in time that they have our support. They have our military support. If I were the President of the United States, you'd find one of our battleships off of one of those shoals where they're running off fishermen, and I'd sit out there and fish right off the bow of one of our ships and just let the Chinese try to take the next step. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break. You're watching VBS News Broadcasting System. This new program is called The Strike Zone, and my name is Bill Jensen. We'll see you back here in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, VBS Television Network is pleased to announce a new and exciting English language daily live news program which will commence on November the 1st, 2024, if not sooner. The programs will broadcast live each weekday, Monday through Friday at prime time from 6 p.m. to midnight from VBS Studios located in Orange County, California. VBS broadcasts through 12 connected digital systems: YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon TV, Sony Smart TV, LG Smart TV, Samsung Smart TV, Google Play, Apple Store, and VBSTelevision.com. VBS also broadcasts throughout the entire state of California through 3 free-to-air channels, including KJLA 57.6 in Southern California, KSCZ 16.14 in San Jose, and KMMC 30.6 in San Francisco. VBS broadcasts 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We look forward to bringing you important, timely news coverage and commentary regarding politics, business, culture, and religion on a local basis here in Orange County, statewide in California, nationally throughout the United States, and also internationally, especially with respect to Vietnam and Southeast Asia. Please join in and have a wonderful time with us.
When I was District Attorney of San Francisco, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and I spent many hours with her at the hospital. Fortunately, however, I could take the time I needed to be with my mother, but far too many others cannot.
Đó là lý do Kamala Harris đang chiến đấu để nghỉ phép có lương để chăm sóc cho gia đình. Trẻ con được chăm sóc với chi phí hợp lý và được chăm sóc tại nhà.
Everyone should be able to care for the people they love.
May mắn đêm nay tâm hồn tỏa sáng vui tươi. Chia sẻ niềm vui nào, ôi vận may ngập tràn lên. Lucky you, lucky me, lucky everybody. Lucky me, lucky you, lucky me, like glitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Strike Zone. My name is Bill Jensen, and this broadcast is coming from VBS News Network. Ladies and gentlemen, we are only 19 days from electing Donald Trump back to the President of the United States and ending this corrupt government that we see in the executive branch currently. I can't wait. I hope all of you get out to vote. I hope that J.D. Vance is the new Vice President, Semper Fi. I come from a father who is a Marine, and I couldn't ask for more than a Marine to be the Vice President backing up Donald Trump. So, ladies and gentlemen, with 19 days left to go before the election, is there anybody that you haven't called? Usually in a situation like this, I would ask you to please stop right now, take your cell phone, call 3 people that you know, ask them, are you registered to vote? Did you receive your ballot yet? And if not, find out why. Go to the internet and look up swampthevoteusa.com and find out where you can vote. Or if you didn't get your ballot, who do you call? swampthevoteusa.com. Go check that out. Get ready. We have 19 days left to vote. Make it count, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your eyes open. Be vigilant. And remember, this is the one place that we can all make a difference, because if we turn in enough votes, they won't be able to cheat. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up a little bit with what was going on in the China Sea. And according to Major General Brian Gibson, the top U.S. air and missile defense person in charge of the Pacific region, China and North Korea have fired more missiles than they have fired in the last year. In the last year, they've fired more missiles than they've ever fired before. This is different than just a few years ago when Donald Trump was in office. There was nothing like what we've seen now. Thank you, Joe Biden. You're a discredit and a disgrace to the free world, and Trump is going to be our only chance and Taiwan's only chance of really being able to stand up and know that there isn't one foot of ground that is going to be given up the way Crimea and the Ukraine have been stepped on recently. And I think that'll be done through peaceful means. I think that Donald Trump will simply walk softly and carry a big stick, to put it in Teddy Roosevelt's terms. The U.S. military, with 3,500 troops and 20 aircraft, are on an assault ship and an air and sea operations program that is defending the China Sea and keeping the sea lanes open to all free nations. Keep up the good work, guys. Help is on the way. A real commander-in-chief is about to take office, and his name is Donald Trump. Again, all of my thanks to the military brothers that are still out there holding the fort, and to Major General Brian Gibson for keeping those guys alive, keeping them ready, and taking care of them to make sure that that ship operates the way it needs to, because sometimes it's not war, it's typhoon, flood, hurricane, and we are the nation that usually comes to the rescue. Colonel Samuel Myers is the commanding officer of the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit. He oversees all air operations. Their commitment and is keeping China in check in the face of the largest conventional military buildup by China since World War II. So Colonel Samuel Myers, good luck to you in the 13th Marine Expeditionary Force. Semper Fi, and we hope that God keeps you in favor while you're doing your job out there in deep water. Switching to Iran. Within the last 3 days, Iran has warned the United States military forces to stay out of Israel after they've launched 2 missile strikes on Israel. That sounds a little bit funny, doesn't it? If it wasn't so serious, you're going to tell me to stay out of helping my friends when you're launching missiles on them. I would say it's not looking good for Iran right now. And the quiet and the silence that you hear is the deep planning that's probably going on in the back room, and somebody's about to pay for it. I would hope that the targets that are taken out are minimized with regard to civilian casualties. Absolutely, we all do. But I hope they take out the biggest part of the threat, which is the nuclear facilities that Iran holds. I would bet that the U.S. and Israel have that capability, and I hope they exercise it with surgical precision. In Florida, fuel shortages are stopping and slowing the recovery after Hurricane Milton, and we've got Hurricane Helene. This is something that we're still not seeing enough of in the way of footage regarding the massive devastation that's taken place. I don't think that we're going to get a body count on this for some time to come. And I do know people that are deploying with equipment into the region of the United States with all of the pumps and medical services and air moving equipment that it takes to try and recover some of these properties where water is beginning to recede. And that will probably mean that hospitals firing up generators, getting fuel, and reestablishing some sort of emergency services in the territory is going to be number one on the list. The fuel shortages are going to be some of the hardest things to overcome in those areas. I have been told that FEMA has been absent with regard to the response and boots on the ground, but that it has been the National Guard and the regular military that have been in the line of sight the most. But like we said on the broadcast the other day, it is the neighbors. They are the former police, firefighters, first responders, retired and active, that are helping within the community to organize, rescue, and save each other. Winds have picked up, rains are still an issue, and those folks have some pretty dark, cold nights, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your eyes open to your news broadcasting systems in case we can give you a place where you can contribute or where you can send the types of help that they need. If you happen to be a construction company, recovery company, we will do our best to bring you more news on that in the future here. In Texas, SpaceX has launched the 5th Starship from the Starbase in Texas. So once again, Elon Musk is doing the job of sending stuff up, bringing it back, and making it reusable in short time. In Florida again, FEMA whistleblower has come forward and stated that FEMA has withheld funds before the Hurricane Helene hit, that FEMA has had no actions, and that they're broke because they have spent those funds apparently on illegal alien activities and support. The planes have been grounded, cutting off relief. Now that part I don't understand. It seems that we ought to have aircraft, helicopters supporting in the mission. We'll try to find out more for you on that in the future here. Abandoned Americans have been left to die in devastated communities, and the response is not forthcoming. I don't think it's going to make it in time, quite frankly. Coming from somebody who worked in a disaster response force for the United States military, I would say that FEMA needs some serious overhaul, attention, redirection, and for this point, I would take the badge and just give it to the U.S. military right now, because I don't think that anybody is going to be better prepared to ignite air operations, ground operations, triage, and medical attention in the field the way the military could. The distribution of food and water right now is going to be a crippling effort. I don't know how. If you have no place to land a plane, you're going to have to drop it from a helicopter, and water is 8 pounds to the gallon. So every time you want to lower a case of water, you've got to do it somewhere where you're not going to destroy it or kill somebody, and that means tons and tons of water just to be delivered, drinkable water. You're only good for a couple of days without water. You can get a couple of more days without food, but without good drinkable water, you're in trouble in a hot and humid environment, not to mention the exposure that you're going to suffer from dehydration and the cold nights, especially if it's raining and windy. The wind chill factor will bring it down. So ladies and gentlemen, our prayers, our hearts go out to those folks that are suffering from the hurricanes Helene and Milton. Hang in there, and if you happen to be a citizen in the area and you've got trucks and you can bring water, I would say make some calls to your local officials and see if there is somebody that you can offer your assistance with. Construction companies a lot of times have that heavy equipment to clear roads, pull back some foam poles. Of course, you've got electrical to be aware of, but contractors usually know how to handle that stuff. In Panama, ladies and gentlemen, Law and Border with Ben Bergquam just came through the jungles not too long ago on a really brutal path that comes from South America into Central America, into Panama. And the United Nations, they discovered, was in the former Fort Clayton base, and has completely set up an NGO hub assisting human smuggling and intimidating journalists in the USA, and working with cartels, Maduro in Venezuela, etc. In Panama City, the former Clayton, where the former Clayton Army base is located, is the United Nations Operational Center for UNICEF. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the fuel that is being used down there, not to return people back to their countries, not to offer them medical attention and return them back to their countries. They are giving them food, water, clothing, and money to proceed forward to America. To proceed forward to America? Are you kidding me? What's the United Nations doing helping the effort of transporting people to illegally come into our border? And you wonder why people don't want to be a member of certain clubs. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch Law and Border with Ben Bergquam. That guy has taken some chances with his boys through the jungles to bring you some pictures and some reporting that you are never going to see anywhere else. In California, BNSF Railroad is about to build a 4,500-acre, $1.5 billion project that is going to create about 3,000 to 4,000 jobs here in Southern California. And those are construction jobs, and is expected to potentially create an additional 20,000 jobs in the long run. Now, this BNSF project is being built to receive the cargo containers coming out of the LA Wilmington Harbor. The third rail through Cajon Pass has already been built as part of that project. You may have heard of the Alameda Corridor. The Alameda Corridor has been cleaned up and there are no at-grade crossings for cars or vehicles in the LA area. This means long trains can leave immediately for the high desert. End result is they go to Barstow, they're reorganized and then shipped to longer destinations such as Kansas, Chicago, or Miami. Ladies and gentlemen, that's huge. CARB is trying to create a battery-operated train situation. Congressman Obernolte has fought that tooth and nail, and I don't think it's going to succeed. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to end our broadcasting from VBS News tonight. You're watching The Strike Zone. My name is Bill Jensen. Hang in there and we'll catch you on the rebound. Ladies and gentlemen, VBS Television Network is pleased to announce a new and exciting English language daily live news program which will